My name is Sarah Carter. 3 weeks before my father passed away, he held my hand in his hospital room. His voice was weak, but his eyes were as calm as ever. Sarah, promise me one thing. No matter what happens after I'm gone, don't fight your brother. I smiled through my tears. I promise. He squeezed my hand. The truth will fight for itself. At the time, I didn't understand what he meant, but I would soon discover Dad had spent months preparing for the day our family would be tested. Dad built everything we had: our family home, a successful construction company, a small investment portfolio. To most people, he looked wealthy, but what made him special wasn't his money. It was his generosity. He quietly paid school fees for children who couldn't afford them. He repaired neighbors' homes without charging them. And every Christmas, he donated more than anyone ever knew. He never wanted recognition. He simply believed, if you have enough to help someone, you already have enough. My older brother, Michael, didn't see life that way. To him, success was measured by bank accounts, luxury cars, expensive watches, and the size of an inheritance. Dad tried to teach him differently, but Michael always believed money was the answer to everything. When Dad became seriously ill, I visited him every evening after work. We talked, read old family albums, remembered Mom. Michael usually came only when lawyers or accountants were present. One afternoon, Dad looked at me after Michael left. He quietly said, "Some people ask how much they're going to receive. Others ask how you're feeling." Then he smiled sadly. And those two questions reveal everything. I didn't realize Dad was already making one final plan. A plan that would expose the truth after he was gone. The funeral was quiet. Friends, neighbors, former employees. Hundreds came to say goodbye. Michael barely cried. Instead, he kept asking Dad's attorney, "When's the will reading?" Even some relatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. 2 days later, we all gathered inside the courthouse. Michael wore an expensive designer suit. He looked completely confident, as though the outcome had already been decided. When he sat beside me, he whispered, "I hope you're ready, because after today, everything belongs to me." I looked at him, not with anger, but with sadness, because I remembered Dad's final words, "The truth will fight for itself." I had no idea. Those words were only minutes away from proving themselves true. The courtroom was completely silent. Michael leaned back in his chair with a confident smile. Mr. Harrison, Dad's attorney, adjusted his glasses. He began reading the will. "To my beloved children, thank you for giving me a life worth living." My eyes filled with tears. Even after his passing, it felt like Dad was still speaking directly to us. The attorney continued, "The Carter Construction Company shall remain under temporary management." Michael smiled. "I by my eldest son, Michael Carter." He couldn't hold himself back. He stood up before the attorney finished. "I knew it." He laughed. "I told everyone Dad trusted me." Then he turned toward me. "I guess this settles everything." Several relatives exchanged uneasy glances. The judge looked up. "Mr. Carter, please sit down until the reading is complete." Michael shrugged. "Sorry, Your Honor. I just wanted everyone to know the truth." Mr. Harrison slowly closed the will. "There is one final instruction." Michael frowned. "What instruction?" The attorney reached into his briefcase. He removed a thick sealed envelope with Dad's handwriting across the front. It read, "Open only after Michael claims the entire estate." The courtroom fell silent. Michael's smile faded. "What is this?" Mr. Harrison looked directly at him. "Your father gave me very specific instructions. He believed this moment would happen." The attorney carefully opened the envelope. Inside was another handwritten letter and a small USB flash drive. "The letter says," Mr. Harrison began, "if Michael has already declared victory, please play the video before anyone leaves the courtroom." The judge nodded. "Proceed." The lights dimmed. A television screen came to life. After a few seconds, Dad appeared on the screen. He looked tired, but he was smiling. "Hello, everyone. If you're watching this, I'm no longer with you." He looked straight into the camera. Then he said, "Michael, if you've already claimed everything, you've forgotten the most important lesson I ever tried to teach you." Michael stared at the screen. His confidence began to disappear. Dad continued, "You believe this family was built with money. It wasn't. It was built with trust. And trust cannot be inherited." The courtroom remained completely silent. No one looked away. Then Dad took a deep breath and said the words that changed everything. "The will you just heard is only the beginning. Because my final wish decides who truly deserves my legacy." Michael whispered. "What does that mean?" The answer was waiting inside one final envelope. The courtroom remained silent. Dad's face was still on the screen. He looked directly into the camera. Then he smiled. "Michael, if you're confused right now, good. Because confusion is the first step toward understanding." Michael swallowed hard. His confidence was gone. Dad continued, "For years, you believed my greatest treasure was this company. You were wrong. My greatest treasure was always my family." He paused. "But a family built on greed cannot survive." The video ended. Before anyone could speak, Mr. Harrison reached beneath the evidence table. He placed a small wooden box in front of the judge. Across the lid, Dad had written, "Open only after my final video ends." The judge nodded. "You may proceed." Mr. Harrison unlocked the box. Inside, there were 3 envelopes. One marked Sarah, one marked Michael, and one marked the court. Gasps echoed through the room. Mr. Harrison opened the court envelope first. Inside was a notarized statement. He began reading. "If Michael has claimed the entire estate before this letter is opened, he has failed the final test I prepared for him." Michael stared at the floor. His hands were trembling. The attorney continued, "My estate was never meant to reward greed. It was meant to protect the values our family was built upon." Then Mr. Harrison picked up Michael's envelope. Inside was Dad's old wristwatch. The leather strap was worn. The glass was scratched. Attached was a handwritten note. "Michael, this watch reminds me that success takes years to build, and only moments to destroy." Tears filled Michael's eyes. Next, Mr. Harrison opened my envelope. Inside was Mom's wedding ring, a faded family photograph, and a letter. "Sarah, thank you for choosing people over possessions. Never let bitterness replace kindness." I couldn't stop crying. Then, Mr. Harrison reached to the bottom of the wooden box. There is one final document. It was another sealed envelope. Across the front, Dad had written 5 chilling words. "Read only after Michael apologizes." The courtroom looked toward my brother. Michael slowly stood. His voice shook. He looked at me, with tears running down his face. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I spent years chasing your inheritance and forgot that I was losing my sister." The courtroom was completely silent. Mr. Harrison slowly reached for the final envelope and smiled. Robert knew this moment might come. He left one final surprise. The courtroom was silent. Every eye was on Michael. He slowly lowered his head. For the first time in years, there was no pride, no anger, only regret. He looked at me. His voice trembled. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to honor Dad. I was trying to own everything he built." Tears rolled down his face. "I forgot. He never raised us to live like that." Mr. Harrison nodded. Robert asked me to wait until those exact words were spoken. He picked up the final sealed envelope. The room held its breath. Carefully, he broke the seal. Inside was one handwritten letter and a small silver key. The judge leaned forward. "What does the key open?" Mr. Harrison smiled. "We're about to find out." He unfolded Dad's final letter. "My dear children, if you're reading this together, Then my greatest wish has already come true. I looked at Michael. He looked back at me. For the first time, we weren't enemies. We were simply brother and sister again. Mr. Harrison continued. The silver key opens safety deposit box 27 at First National Bank. Inside isn't another fortune. It's something far more valuable. Later that afternoon, the judge allowed the family to accompany us to the bank. The manager unlocked the vault. Michael carefully inserted the silver key. Click. The box slowly opened. Inside, there wasn't cash. There wasn't gold. There were only 3 things: Dad's old leather journal, a family photograph, and one final envelope. The photograph showed all 4 of us: Mom, Dad, Michael, and me, standing in front of our first tiny house. On the back, Dad had written, "We were never richer than we were that day." Michael began crying again. I remember that house. So do I. Mr. Harrison opened the final envelope. Dad's last message read, "Money can build houses, but only love builds a home. If my children choose each other over my estate, then they have inherited everything I ever wanted to leave behind." The room fell completely silent. Even the bank manager wiped away a tear. A week later, the court officially approved Dad's original estate plan. The company remained in the Carter family trust. The home was shared equally. The investments were divided fairly. Michael accepted responsibility for presenting the incorrect documents. The court handled the legal issues according to the evidence and the law. He didn't complain. He simply accepted the consequences. 1 year later, Michael and I stood together outside Carter Construction. But the sign had changed. Beneath Dad's name, we added a new line. Integrity is worth more than any inheritance. Every year, the company funded scholarships for hardworking students. Just like Dad always dreamed. Sometimes, people ask me what my father left behind. I smile. Because the answer isn't a house, or a business, or a bank account. My father left behind something no one could ever steal. A second chance to become a family again. And in the end, that was the greatest inheritance of all.